some people who obtained some of these files and are familiar with the person who's familiar with the files, he goes under different names. Benjamin Netanyahu, as we know, is one of them. That's his first fake name. Benjamin Natia. Then there's John J. Sullivan, the Skippy kid from next door. Then there's John J. Sullivan Jr., just in case you oust him. So can you imagine John J. Sullivan, the wild and crazy guy called John J. Sullivan, was doing nights on the town, probably with Gary Busey over there in Malibu. Upon further examination, they also examined the dual citizenship of Mr. John J. Sullivan. My man, John J. Sullivan. Give him a round of applause, man. What if he played saxophone at a local jazz club? My man, John J. Sullivan. So according to U.S. law, Netanyahu remains a U.S. citizen. I'll be damned. 1982, left his job at a furniture salesman position to be a policy advisor over there at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Finally, Netanyahu has an ally in the cosmetic dynasty, Estee Lauder. He was getting his grubby hands in Estee Lauder cosmetics. He was the guy at Nordstrom's powdering your nose. He's selling you furniture and hammocks. And then when he's not busy doing that, he's putting blush, lipstick on you and grandma at the mall. This is we are learning so much, aren't we? We are learning so much. Unbelievable.
Something ain't right.
Well, you go to hell. What amazing lyrics those were. Are we ready to go here? I think we are. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War. I am Dean Ryan, who is reporting to you here tonight. It's very late night. Like many people this season, I have a cold. I swear I do. And it's only getting worse. I'm in the midst of a rainstorm. So if you could hear little footsteps behind me, well, it's not critters, it's the rain. And that's what I'm going to blame it on. Yes, I'm blaming it on the rain. Tonight's episode is Epstein's Deadman's Tales. Epstein's Deadman Tales. As you can see, this is when you think you're going to get away from the Epstein, the dead man. Well, he creeps up on you. Look at that. Everywhere you go, he's going to creep up on you just like that. Anyways, we're going to be talking just about that here tonight. As anyone who follows politics knows, even these people here, everybody is on the chopping block right now. Everybody's on the chopping block. Yes, Mega Seth, the Shapiros, and the woman who eats dog food. Yeah, they all are on the chopping block because the word treason, the word espionage, the word bad or the phrase bad PR is just not good enough to explain the amount of pain, hurt, and embarrassment that's coming towards the U.S. If you missed it this weekend, we showed an incredible, the members saw it, and some other select few saw the Stu Peters film about the very disgusting heretic of a so-called pastor, Greg Locke. Just an incredible piece that was. And we had Neil Bishop give some amazing analysis, which you'll hear again towards the end of tonight for the Real Deal Religious segment. But what was explained there was this unholy union we have with a creepy country, and it's now coming to bite everyone right in the behind and slap everyone with a yarmulke right in the face. It's coming back to play here as Epstein is now going to be revealed as a Israeli spy, something we kind of knew just, I don't know, 10 years ago in my case. We're going to be talking about that because the civil war within the GOP, the Grand Ole Opry, is underway. It's huge. It's huge. Also, we're going to be hearing about this Kash Patel. Yeah, have you heard about this? The Kash Patel, his girlfriend who's calling the shots, who's apparently a country star, which I had no idea. I mean, I guess I don't listen to enough country. Yeah, he's calling the shots, or she is, but he's using your tax dollars to protect her. You're going to find out why here tonight. It's kind of a real conundrum for our country. Also, in midst of all that, I also said this past weekend that I'm going to reveal some major news in things that was given to me in 2017 regarding Donald Trump that I found quite appalling and out of this world and unbelievable. But I think now is the time to share that with everybody here tonight. So in the second half, I will be revealing the big secret that is rather disgusting. I'm now having second thoughts about it. Okay, I'm going to reveal it in the second half here tonight, just because I promise, and I'm a man of my word who's a man of his promise. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the upcoming holidays. Can you afford it? Can I afford it? Will there be holidays? Does it matter? And what are you going to be eating? We'll see how much it's going to cost us all for that fact. Plus, Mexico is the reason for the season right now as World War III. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Mexico. As I shared with you, a revolution is now underway in the narco state. So all the expats down there, brace yourself for war, prepare for it, as bulls on parade is definitely coming, definitely coming. But also, what is happening with Venezuela and what's the connection to Mexico? You'll find out here tonight. I'll give you some incredible analysis on that. In addition to that, some massive real deal politics, as massive rhymes with Massey, Massey Parkou, that is, as Thomas Massey is now my prediction. And some people call me the Karnak, and I'm okay with that because you're looking at the future leaders of either the Grand Ole Opry or a new party. You're going to find out because Thomas Massey is leading the way, and he's sticking up for many of the voiceless, many of victims who thought they never see this day come. So we'll be peering into that. Plus, some major news coming out of, well, I guess some reality being splashed onto us as Canada now cannot afford their health care. What is the alternative? Well, let's just say Dr. Kevorkian is not rolling in his grave, but actually smiling. We'll find out what that is. And plus, ending tonight, aside from the big revelation, we're going to be peering back into the real deal religious as we're going to see what is this all about as our RDM theologian, Neil Bishop, shares that with us again later on tonight. Okay, before we get started, we are being broadcasted live. Yes, we are 8 days a week, usually weeknights at 10 p.m. Eastern. We are broadcasting live over on The Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook, as well as Dean Ryan TV on YouTube, and the wonderful Graveyard, where I'm frozen for 4 years in the running now, Rumble. So hopefully people can hear me, see me, and well, I don't want to say the other one. Okay, so let's get started now with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods, shall we? Well, that little destination, a little up the woods, is now ready to. It's ready to ripe and grow. As now, a lot of things are growing. Well, this is just happening. I can now share with you coming out of Hawaii, as we cover a lot of weather factors around here. Now, the Kailua volcano over there in Hawaii has just erupted. This is big, probably a testing ground and a beta test for what they want to erupt here. As that one song said, eruption, while producing a striking wing-shaped burst of activity with lava fountains climbing over 1,500 feet high. A huge sight to be seen. Here it is. I can honestly tell you that's exactly what my heartburn and acid reflux currently feels like. So I relate to that very much so. But yeah, that's happening in Hawaii. Why or how? Well, I'm not the seismologist I used to be, or the geologist for that fact. But we know they're trying to erupt a volcano right here in California, because it's all coming out. It's all coming out, and how symbolic that volcano is. Hopefully, there's no one who's injured or worse for that fact. Damn mosquitoes. Anyways, moving on here as we continue, and I worry about my health as getting eaten up again. Well, this one is now huge, as now the FBI is planning on a current release of the Epstein files. It's now been voted upon. Yes, it is. It's now been voted upon. Let me tell you what and how and who. Well, now I'm going to show you some breaking news in a clip that goes with it, as now Trump has now confirmed he will sign the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law if it passes Congress, and apparently it has, or it might. He says, we have a quote, "We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. They did it, not me. All of the friends of Epstein were Dems," he says. A vote now releasing the files is set for later this week, as Representative Thomas Massey, who we'll get to later in the next segment, in Rosh Hashanah Kahana, successfully gathered 218 signatures to force a floor vote. Yeah, it's a real big deal. Before I show you a bit about it, now here is, you're going to see Trump, who is and pay attention to the body language, because it really shows us the willingness or the unwillingness to release this. And per what I heard with our insider Forsetti, why is Trump covering this up or appearing to cover it up? Well, what was shared with me, and I shared with you a bit ago, is apparently beyond the sex crimes, beyond the trafficking of women and children crimes, there's a lot of money laundering crimes. Yes, there is, with faulty businesses and you name it. But one of the people, or two of the people rather, who are involved that are connected to Trump that I was made aware of, are one of his sons and the rat son, or the rat king himself, Jared Kushner. Think about that. Now, when I asked, what about Trump's involvement, he said, well, he doesn't know anything about children, rather porn stars. Well, here he is in his own words.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others. They're all Democrats. All I want is, I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages, 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that many of the people that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. But they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for I don't. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them. And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time.
He doesn't want to talk about it too much. Why is that, you might ask? Why does he not want to talk about it? Because there's a lot of people, a lot of victims of this that are still living. It'd be a real shame to finally release this, 50 years later, 60, everyone's dead. And here's one of the main factors right here of why this needs to be released.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me. When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
Whew, did a number on the ears there. I don't know if those chime bowls worked for you out there, but certainly not me. But so that's when they met Jeffrey Epstein. What about Pam Bondi? What about Pamela Bondi, a woman who is supposedly the head of the DOJ, who I find that hard to believe, but more like a dropout from Baywatch. But how did she get involved? When did she meet anybody? Well, I found this. This is apparently when she met Donald Trump. Have you seen this?
I met him before I was Attorney General. I think I actually met him in college, but I didn't know him well then at all.
Go figure. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, would you?
Okay, well, it was college. I did not know that. But who would not want this out? Doesn't Senator Ted Cruz, a.k.a. Grandpa Munster, doesn't he care about children? Why wouldn't Ted Cruz want any of this out? It just makes no sense to me why. What's wrong with Theodore these days? Well, then there's the
Good job. Good job. Ready, Mama?
Well, I think that answered everything we need to know there. So very interesting stuff. Is this really going to be allowed out? And that's not entirely true. Not all the JFK files came out. Not all the MLK files come out. None of the Malcolm X files have come out. And what has come out regarding 9/11, well, there's certain parts of it that have been redacted, blacked out. Surely that's not going to happen this go around, will it? Then there's this. Well, now the FBI is saying they'll allow this to happen, but they're going to redact some of the names in the Epstein files. I'll be damned. Well, that's right. The Bureau's the Freedom of Information Act team, the FOIA, tasked with conducting a final review of records blacked out the names before higher ups said last month that releasing the documents would, quote, would not be appropriate or warranted. That's right. That's right. So now this is now happening. The team tasked with conducting a final review of the voluptuous cache of files had applied the redactions before the DOJ and the FBI concluded last month that, quote, no further disclosure of the files would be appropriate or warranted. Well, from the government's perspective, Trump was a private citizen when Epstein's investigation took place and therefore is entitled to privacy protections. That's right. The most transparent administration in history. What a claim. What a title. Well, before explaining the government's rationale for blacking out Trump's name, let's recap. As now, along with aliens and JFK's assassination, the conspiracy theorists surrounding the life and death of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have long consumed the MAGA movement, unbeknownst to many, and it's a hard pill to swallow for some. Well, Epstein avoided the federal sex trafficking charges back in 2008, as you recall, when he agreed to pled guilty to state charges over there in Florida for soliciting prostitution. In other words, he admitted to being a pimp. Well, in July of 2019, following the investigation over there in Miami, Florida, the Miami Herald also scrutinized the integrity of the government's probe. Epstein was indicted on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors, and a month later, he died by so-called suicide in his jail cell. And Elton Barr said, oh, no, that's entirely not true. No, he didn't die. Well, he did die, but he knew in his heart that they put a mannequin with the wrong size ear and they dragged out some fake dead guy, if not, it was the same mannequin used for Charlie Kirk. It's just too much. Well, Epstein's death led to a swirl of renewed interest among the Trump supporters and people that have a heart, I would say, because guilty is guilty, isn't it? Continuing. Well, not just that. Trump vowed to declassify the material. In fact, the entire 2024 campaign, if you recall, was all about the Epstein files, how they're going to release it. That's right. Even Trump Jr., he was grandstanding on it. You had Kash Patel, the man who looks like a hostage, that was just all over the podcast universe saying they're covering it up. They're covering it up. Yeah, that weird looking fella. What's his name? Dan Bongbingo. Saying he knows they're covering up. He said, folks, don't let this get away, folks. God, I never could stand that guy. And yeah, little talent, but that's about it. They're all screwed. Now, the death swirled many renewed interest on was he dead? Was he not dead? But declassify the files was definitely the hashtag and the theme of the last how many years now? How many years? Now, if you recall, the day that will long live in embarrassment, the February 27th of 2025 this year, a highly publicized event at the White House where Pam Bondi rolled out the DOJ's referred to as the first phase. The first phase of what? She got all the influencers who have all kowtowed to the country of Israel. Remember them, all of them? Laura Loomer, everyone who just gets promoted at Rumble and YouTube, all of them were there. They were all holding the folders and the binders. It was attended by the former Pizzagate provocateur, they say, Jack Posobiec, and the other far-right influencers. Yeah, okay. Now, that was the first phase. Instead, Bondi's big Epstein files party was a bust. It certainly was. It turned out that the documents she declassified, which included pages from Epstein's infamous Black Book, well, they had previously been released, most recently during the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is being talked about of getting a presidential pardon. That's right. A woman who's supposedly in jail. We've only seen through caricatures and comic book sketches that this woman is in prison, who's probably at a Ramada Inn somewhere near the equator or the Gulf, they say over there in Texas. We just got to take the word for it these days, because everything we hear that's happening, oh, this person's executed. It's all folklore, mythical, hearsay, started from God knows who. Unless it's just no doubt somebody wearing a mask. I mean, our discernment is being toyed with, and I don't like it. So, yeah, this is what's happening now. Trump's name being blacked out. What do we mean by that? Because we can't get straight answers from anyone. Well, what happened after the phase one, as reported back in March 28th, the addition of the FOIA files, Patel directed FBI special agents from New York and Washington field offices to join the Bureau's FOIA employees at its sprawling Central Records complex over there in Winchester, Virginia, that is, and another building a few miles away. They were instructed to search and review for every single Epstein-related document and determine what could and could not be released. See, nothing, it was all that's being released is that's just a, what do they call that? Oh, yeah, a lie. That included a mountain of material accumulated by the FBI over nearly 20 years, including the grand jury testimony, prosecutors' case files, as well as 10,000s of pages now of the Bureau's own investigative files on Epstein. Now, it was the task that Kash Patel put together that was involved in as many as 1,000 FBI agents and other personnel pulling all-nighters, are saying, while pouring through 100,000 documents, according to a July letter over there by Senator I Love Migrants in the Military, Dick Durbin, what he said to Pam Bondi. I mean, they're all disgusting. I mean, there's not one winner I can see to find here. Now, senior officials at the FBI Records Information Dissemination Section, which is a mouthful, which handles the processing of a FOIA request, which, by the way, I requested a FOIA myself years ago, got nothing. Can't understand why that is. Pushed back on the directives, all of them, who are all the people involved here now. That a couple of months ago, just recently, somewhat, a gentleman whose name Michael Seidel, the section chief of RIDS, who worked at the FBI for 14 years, RIDS as in, ridding things you don't want, they don't want us to see. Well, Patel blamed him for the failure to send all of the Epstein files to Bondi. Yeah, he was so beat up about it. It's all he talks about now, isn't it? Then a couple of months ago, Seidel was told he could either retire or be fired. Now, he chose the former and quietly left the FBI. Now, the details related to Seidel's exit haven't been previously reported and been hush-hush ever since. Just like the main field officer woman over there in Utah for the FBI, who was award-winning, many praise from all sides of the field, was let go right before the Charlie Kirkland event. Isn't that something? Where's Cash's head these days, aside from, his new girlfriend and where that head is? Yeah, we'd like to know. Well, in the recent FOIA request, the Congress established 9 exemptions as a way to balance the public's right to know against the government's need to protect. So we have a right to know. The so-called government has a need to protect. What do you think is going to win at the end of the day? The right to know or the need to cover up? Now, when such competing interests arise in the non-FOIA matters, those exemptions are often applied even in the exact language set forth for the FOIA statute. So, now, just to sunset here, in a preparation for potential public release, the documents went into certain other FOIA officers who applied redactions in accordance with 9 exemptions. The people familiar with the matter said that Trump's name, along with other high-profile individuals, was blacked out because he was a private citizen when the federal investigation began. So Trump's one of the names that's going to be blacked out. So maybe that's why he's very willing to sign it. Now, when pressed, a White House spokesperson would not respond to any questions about this or the redaction of Trump's name and said, referring questions to the FBI. The FBI said, oh, thanks for calling. Well, we declined to comment, as well as the Justice Department, which is really the Injustice Department. Nobody is surprised by this, I'd say. None, not even the least. Said we're all getting gaslit, right? So that's how that one is. This is interesting. So now, as I tell you about that, you might have heard me mention some things here. Let me show you. One of the things you might find out, and I'll explain this more, is my big revelation towards the second half here tonight. Well, this was interesting. Look at this right here. Some of the names that are blacked out. Well, this is what you may see. They're saying that in a leaked email, the brother of Jeffrey Epstein, Mark Epstein, asked if Vladimir Putin has the photos of Trump with Bubba. Bill Clinton is known as Bubba, doing something with Bubba. Oh, this is terrible. But look, there's public life and then there's real life. As a guy myself who has been in the showbiz, I've literally seen executives with family at events, fashion events, you name it, wife, little children, posing, wife, children go, the after party comes, literally grabs a male model and starts doing some things in front of everybody at the after party. This happens. So everyone you think you know, just by proxy of television or internet, that are officials, don't buy the hype, because it is a whole different world. So I don't want to show that again, but it has a lot to do with what I'm going to share with you. That's why it's very difficult to get this out. So I'm I might redact my own files here because I can't take it. But anyways, moving on from that somewhat. Well, what about Kash Patel's girlfriend? You might have heard me mention that. Well, get this now. Kash Patel's girlfriend, who, by the way, is suing Candace Owens for $5 million by daring to suggest she's a Mossad agent, daring to suggest that Prager University, which is like the so-called conservative bastion of education halls and groups and organizations that you go to learn how to be a nice little conservative, from Dennis Prager. Yeah, the man who looks just like a voluptuous Andy Warhol. That's exactly what it is. It's all a university had to train to be a nice little Mossad. Well, now this is different now, as Kash Patel's girlfriend is now being protected by FBI SWAT agents as a security perk. Well, and she's a country singer. Who knew? Well, now agents on a detail with the country singer would presumably be unable to respond or delayed in responding to other incidents, according to sources who are familiar with the protection. Well, FBI directors Kash Patel's country music performer, girlfriend, and alleged Mossad asset, which, by the way, you can't critique her anymore. She'll sue you. If you said, I don't believe she's a real country singer, well, she won't sue you for that. But if you say, you're with the Mossad, yeah, she'll come after you. Well, the girlfriend currently enjoys now the protection of the FBI security detail to shield her from potential threats. Meanwhile, there's no one shielding us from her music. That's how I see it. Well, now prompting concerns about the arrangement may delay law enforcement from responding to other incidents because they got to protect, the princess, Alexis Wilkins. Well, Alexis Wilkins, who's now Patel's new girlfriend, who he divorced his wife for, has a security detail made up of elite FBI agents. So fit, Nobody goes to the donut shop with these guys. Well, usually assigned to a SWAT team in the FBI field office over there in Nashville, where Wilkins spends her time working as a country artist currently. Well, she and Patel first met in Nashville. How sweet, how romantic. And while they traveled together at times and whisper sweet little nothings and little ditties from the music world, they do not share a residence at this time because, well, they're not married, and at least that's what they're telling us. Well, Patel often travels to Washington for work, but keeps a legal residence over there in Las Vegas when he's feeling a little randy at times. Well, people who are familiar with the FBI security protocols, and aren't they all, said they were unaware of any instance in which the girlfriends of top FBI brass received any kind of government staff security details, preference, or perks for that case. Now, former FBI director in Total Loser, FBI Director Chris Wray's wife, Well, Helen, you might recall, received security protection when she traveled with him. She lived with Ray in their home in Atlanta. Now, SWAT team agents on detail with Wilkins would not be able to respond to anything else while they have to protect her. So there you have it. That's some incredible news. Incredible news. Now, Patel has just to close off. He's come under a lot of scrutiny, but more recently, that is, scrutiny amid reports that he had flown on the FBI's $60 million government jet last month for what critics called a, quote, date night to see Wilkins perform the national anthem at a wrestling event over there in Pennsylvania. Wow. See, just the ultimate power corrupts, doesn't it? And I don't know, is that a romantic thing if your boyfriend took you on the FBI's $60 million jet? This guy is really, it's like he's never been touched by a girl before. That's what he's acting like. It's just a prepubescent boy. Don't I know it? Well, in addition to that, moving on here. Well, what is coming down the pikeway here is, you're getting sued for $5 million. You're getting taken to the woodshed for even suggesting any of these people might be Mossad. Well, there's a call now from the Israeli lobby to put a clampdown on speech. And I'm for one sick of it. Now, this is president of the World Jewish Organization. You'll know exactly who he is, who's now calling this administration to do more to stop the Americans from noticing what's all around us. I swear to God. Well, here it is.
But Jewish schools are not enough. The entire education system in this country, from K through 12 and colleges, must be reformed. Laws must be passed that will focus on three things: no racism, no anti-Semitism, and no anti-Western civilization should be taught here. I need to remind you that anti-Semitism is not new. Even here in the United States, it's just that we haven't seen it in 3 generations. But in the 1930s, there was a strong, vocal, and even pro-Nazi movement that captured the public attention with famous names like Charles Lindbergh and Father Conklin, the radio priest with millions of listeners who attacked us every single day. Father Conklin was the Tucker Carlson of the 1930s, and radio was the TikTok and YouTube of the era. Henry Ford, the industrialist and multimillionaire, was another anti-Semitine. Even President Roosevelt, who was seen as an ally of the Jewish people, closed Americans' doors to Jews in Europe who were desperate to find.
Well, at this rate, I guess everybody's an anti-Semite that has an opinion, half a brain, understands what treason is, understands what genocide, ethnic cleansing. I mean, they're not coming after us all for thinking that, are they? Well, maybe they are. Look at this now. This just came out, just now, as Netanyahu and the Israeli just gang there, the mafia, the Jewish mafia. Well, now they're coming after us because they have spyware. Where? Well, look at this. Well, now unremovable Israeli spyware now has been found on Samsung devices. Damn it. Business Wire. Now Samsung faces backlash over Apple App Cloud, an Israeli-developed app pre-installed in budget Galaxy A and M series devices. That's me. Investigations reveal that the app is embedded in the operating system, preventing full removal. Even when disabled, App Cloud remains on the device, reappears after updates, and can covertly install additional software. Man, thank you. Thanks a lot, JJ Sullivan, for you. That's Mr. Sullivan. He should have just stayed at his job as a makeup artist. Now he's making our lives miserable, isn't he? I tell you that. I'll tell you. Well, that's another disgraceful thing I've been learning about here is, get this now, P. Diddy, who might get a presidential pardon too. You know, all these people getting presidential pardons, not Stuart Rhodes. Roger Stone never got one, but Puff Daddy is about to get one, and Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman who is just a fixture of our imagination, or a courtside cartoon in this case. Well, now listen to this now as we continue on. A lot of headlines tonight. Well, now disgraced mogul, yes, and heretic himself, P. Diddy is now facing new, fresh sexual assault allegations over there in LA as the sheriff launches a new probe. That's right. They put their gloves on. They say, get ready, we're coming. Well, now cops are investigating the new allegations of a sexual assault against Sean Did He or Did He Not Combs. Investigators said that they received a report just recently on Friday over the weekend from a police department over there in Florida where the alleged victim lives. Yes, the LA County Sheriff's Department Special Victims Bureau is undertaking this investigation into new accusations, as a spokesperson from the Largo Police Department over there in Florida told recent news publications that local officers were assisting the East LA Sheriff's Office into the matter. Now, the report was taken all the way back in September from a man who says Combs sexually assaulted him in 2020. This could be the guy who was running around with a gun. Remember that? Now, the alleged victim identified himself as a music producer, Jonathan Hay, in social media posts that have since been deleted. What the heck? He also said he was once John Doe, who filed a civil lawsuit against Combs all the way back in July. So, yes, no word on this matter other than what we know. Also, too, just to be a fair person, this is a big money grab, too. People who probably didn't know Combs, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, yeah, that one time I was assaulted by him, too. Where's my payout? Sean Puff Daddy, he gave me a long hug, kind of like the one that Erica gave JD. And, yeah, that's assault. Where's my payout? You see, you have to think in those terms, too, because it happens all the time. In addition to that, as we move on and change lanes now, well, the holidays are here. And, let's talk about this now, because it's no secret that food prices are soaring, especially as Thanksgiving is now just, days away, which we might do something interesting and fun. But in this case now, the grandest Thanksgiving yet, it's now being called. A new study is now coming out with some cold hard facts, like cold turkey. Well, the 2025 holiday season is going to cost the average American up to $1,000. That's absolutely correct. Well, the average American will be celebrating Thanksgiving this coming Thursday, I believe. Well, they're going to spend about $952 on food, drinks, decorations, decor, travel, and miscellaneous items. Yeah, and that's just a date night for Cash Patel and Miss Wilkins. Also, 1/3 of Americans are cutting their Thanksgiving budgets by an average of 41%. Did you know? Through smaller gatherings, potluck-style meals, and even skipping travel altogether and just having a turkey sandwich. Very sad. Most people now attend multiple Thanksgiving celebrations, with 59% saying it will. It's become a whole season rather than a single day, and that's the case. A lot of what they call Friendsgivings. They go to friend's house, and and families are divided or split. One lives on the east and the west. They'll say, "Well, let's do Thanksgiving on Sunday, and let's do it Saturday." So that's true. And now, finally, the generational differences exist in cost-sharing expectations. The baby boomers more likely to believe host should cover everything, while Gen Z, who I don't understand one bit, prefer splitting cost evenly, and which really describes dating these days, from what I hear. So this is a big deal. So each table, each plate, $22, just to round it all up. So that's what to expect for Thanksgiving. But what are people doing in addition or alternatively to really cover the cost of not just Thanksgiving, but food altogether now? Was the Foodemic shares with us. Well, get this now. This is coming out of MSN, which I believe is mainstream something. Well, now they're saying with the food prices soaring, especially at the grocery store, many people are turning towards, this is interesting, lasagna burritos and burritos. Not both put together. That would be not very appetizing. Well, neighbors feed one another as food prices soar. Yes, homemade lasagnas and foil-wrapped burritos prepared and delivered between neighbors is now the thing to do. As people face the rising grocery prices and uncertainty of the economy, will the files be released? Won't they? People don't know what to do. Now, community groups across the country are rallying volunteers in creative ways to ensure their neighbors don't go hungry, and coming up with all kinds of things. Grocery costs now were 6.7% higher in August than the year before, according to the latest data, and 29% more expensive than they were in February of 2020 when this whole charade happened and began. Now, before the Corona-palooza even started, about 7 in 10 Americans who responded to a Washington Post ABC poll over there last month said their grocery costs had risen in the last year. A substantial chunk of those respondents also said they faced higher utility, healthcare, and housing gas prices. And that's because of this, that's given us a Democratic socialist now over there in New York. You might have heard of him, the man who's going to wage jihad and chop off our heads and, protect the pigs and pork, everything. Yes, Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani, and the winner of the recent government, popularity poll over there in New York. And New Jersey and Virginia are among the candidates who, and some other winners too, who are saying that they're going to nationalize the grocery store. So this is going to lead to food rationing. Do you see how this goes? Which ties into Palantir, which ties into the social crediting score that BlackRock wants. BlackRock wants. Say that one time. That's a tongue twister. So just to give you a little insight of how they're going to be doing it. So lasagna seems to be the way to go, and burritos is how people are getting through this. So that sounds appetizing to me. I don't see anything wrong with that. Finally, what are some of the solutions, you might ask, of curbing this food-demic that's upon us? Well, this one takes the standard here. Now, they're saying milk without cows. There's a new trend that is now starting in places like Israel, out of all places, believe it or not, inside a new science miracle of science-grown milk is now shaking the dairy world. Well, just when you thought the dairy world's fight is with the almond world, who say almond milk is the future, and the dairy world says, how dare you call it milk? It's almond water. You despicable person, you. Well, now there's someone else to be despicable, as now starting early next year. Israelis will find a new kind of milk on their supermarket shelves, one made without cows. Yes, the food tech startup announced it will begin selling its lab-produced milk made from dairy proteins through a partnership with Gad Dairies, as in Gad something, next year. According to the Times of Israel, the company claims its cow-free milk will taste exactly like the dairy one, but even better. Starting in January, 2 variants, and 2 people who are familiar with the milk said a 3% fat milk and vanilla-flavored version will be made available as soon as possible. Well, isn't that something? Something tells me that Starbucks is going to just jump on the opportunity of something like that. So there you have that one. And those are the headlines and the things making the news around the world. We're going to take a break because that was a huge segment. When we get back, we're going to just dive further into this huge civil war happening in the GOP with MGT really speaking up about some threats, and Thomas Massie, who I believe could be the leader of the resistance in the future. So we're going to look into that and a whole lot more, and plus my big reveal in the second half here tonight at World at War, and what an episode it is here tonight. I'll tell you that. Stand by. We'll be right back after this message.
You like me, you want to get to heaven, but you simply don't want to take your time, let alone wait in line? That's why right here at Tunnels to Heaven, we're going to get you to your final destination before the revelation, tribulation, and the strangulation. All you got to do is start giving, because forgiveness ain't cheap, it ain't free, and you got to give to forgive. So that's why sign up today. You can find it at a variety of locations, and underneath the synagogues, we got one in Brooklyn, we got one in Alabama, and we got one over there in Seattle, Washington. Get your fix before you get your kicks, and don't fall for any of these tricks. Get your Tunnels to Heaven membership today, because God's waiting, but he ain't gonna pick you up. Hold on, what's that? What are you saying? Oh, it's my turn to go in that tunnel. I'll see you guys later, and I'll see you in heaven.
Order your Tunnels to Heaven today. 1-800-TUNNELS. 1-800-TUNNELS.
Dick Morris, your thoughts tonight?
Well, I think Trump is going to score a huge victory. I think the media is going to try to downplay it because, as you correctly said, they're basically supporting Ron. Oh, shit. Ron, they're basically supporting Nikki Haley. So they're going to downplay it.
I'm sorry. That was an old advert I just recently discovered again. It was get back to basics here. Oh God. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Real Deal Media members, the Night Owls, because they got vision, they got style, they got class. And to do that and to see some exclusive content, all you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv. Sign up tonight. Oh, man, because Dick Morris is too, and that guy behind him. So sign up tonight. Become a visionary debonair, the whole thing. And a big thank you to everybody at givesendgo.com/realdealgo. We appreciate you. And you make the world spin and continue to go around for all of us here that make this content that we hope you love. Not as much as we love that Dick Morris segment. God, I remember that one just like yesterday. Oh, wow. Anyways, okay, let's get back to basics here. As Epstein's Deadman's Tales continues, what an episode this is. And I am still Dean Ryan, your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. Yes, I am. As, I think I offended people with Dick Morris, but that's my specialty, is offending people. Yes, it is. That's my mission here. We're going to get into some real deal politics, but we have some World War III news to get to, and this is big because there's a pending war now in South America, in the Caribbean, and we're going to find out even Mexico itself. Let's get to some World War III news, shall we? World War III news. Let's talk about it and not just be about it, as we have new things coming out of the Venezuela debacle now, as Donald Trump has now said he will talk to Maduro. Oh, something that Maduro wanted as soon as he got in office, and said, we are not enemies. I have the documents, I have the proof, the evidence, the files of who was allowing this mass migration invasion into the United States. I have the files right here. And because Donald Trump is so gate-kept, especially by little wee secretary Mark Rubio, the little secretary that wishes, yeah, he's the big blocker. You're going to find out too. A man who is supposedly married and was involved in the big narco cocaine running of the mid-'80s. The entire scenario that Miami Vice was based on. In Miami, yeah, he's a big part of it. Although he's little Marco, but he was a big part of something big. Well, now Trump said he will indeed talk to Maduro, something that could have, should have happened before this entire, millions of dollars to move fleets of Navy and military weaponries to the area. And how many, 76 people counting, have died from the fishing boats. This is incredible. And then it brings China to the equation, who has a stake in Venezuela as well. Well, now, yes, Donald Trump says Nicolas Maduro has not been good to the United States. Yeah, because they didn't want a puppet to go in Venezuela. He also said that Venezuela dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country from their prisons, a claim that has been refuted how many times? Well, however, as of today, Trump said he will indeed talk to the president at some point, to his Venezuelan counterpart over there, Nicolas Maduro, while declining to rule out putting U.S. boots on the ground in Latin American nation. This is exactly the reason that people vote. Well, this is not what he ran on, Trump, but putting troops on any ground is the reason that Trump got a lot of the votes from people who even held their nose and voted for him, because they didn't want to go to war under the Biden regime. Now, Trump's comments came as a huge U.S. military buildup of the coast of Venezuela has now been stoking tensions with Washington, accusing Maduro of leading, quote, a terrorist drug cartel. You know, nobody's buying this bullshit. I mean, clearly, when you have Lindsey Graham saying, well, that's where Hamas comes from. They're the funders of Hamas. They're the funders. You can believe me, I'm a former military, just higher up. Give me my lipstick. Yeah, that guy. Well, here's a quote from a further quote. He said, at a certain point, period of time, I'll be talking to him, Trump told people just today, while adding that Maduro has not been good to the U.S., but he's still willing to talk to him. When asked if he would rule out U.S. troops on the ground, Trump said, no, I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela. They dumped hundreds of thousands. Okay, so do people here, let me get this straight. People here in the U.S., do you feel the need to take care of not just Ukraine and the people of Ukraine and the people of Israel? Do you feel the need to take care of the people of Venezuela? This is so ridiculous. I'm not even going to start, but I just did. Continuing now. Well, we'll take a little small victory lap of just a win of just hearing that he'd rather talk, but that doesn't rule out now Colombia and Mexico. Get this now. There's a new spark here. Well, that's the wrong damn story. But now Mexico may be getting bombed. He doesn't rule out bombing Mexico or Colombia. That's true. That's true. He said this is coming out of the Mirror over there in England. And they're very fair. Well, Donald Trump now threatens to bomb Mexico and Colombia and says, quote, I'd be proud. Well, this happened. The comments came during a press conference today as Donald Trump hinted at being open to sending military strikes to Mexico and Colombia in order to stop drugs on Monday, sending chills across the region. Yeah, I'd say so. Well, the president made the comments just during the FIFA award ceremonies today, which I missed for the 30th year in a row. Well, here's a quote. He said, would I launch strikes on Mexico to stop drugs? He said, it's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is, look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to do what we do, what we've done before to the waterways, there's almost no drugs coming through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down to like 85%, he said. That was a quote, just to let you know. He also continued by saying, quote, we have almost no drugs coming into our country by the sea, the waterways. Okay, well, he's also saying that because they took out all these boats coming from Venezuela, that we saved 25,000 American lives. Well, I highly doubt that. That's why we took them out. Well, so yeah, Colombia and Mexico could be on the chopping block. And there is your latest World War III news. I'll tell you that. Let's get to some real deal politics just the way, well, you like it, and I like it too. Here it is. Real deal politics. Let's talk about it now because there's a lot of movement and another war that has now been sparked in the GOP itself as the vote to release the Epstein files is really going to separate the men from the boys and the men from the, pedos in this case. Well, Thomas Massey, who is no stranger to this topic and subject, who's also been the target of Trump unfairly, even recently Trump targeting his new wife and saying she married a loser. I'll tell you, I really, it's hard to digest it all, especially when there's 5 different Donald Trumps that are playing this guy. And I don't say that jokingly because we've shared with everybody recently. We have the Donald Trump who looks like a grizzled, roadmap. And then you have a Trump that looks like he just got out of the, the fountain of youth. And then you could tell it's not Donald Trump on times when he's doing Trumpisms when they're so unnecessary and over the top and following foreign policy measures that he would never as the candidate, years ago even dream about doing, but that doesn't seem to be the case now, as Thomas Massey is now saying he's now dropping the clearest warning yet of what's to come, because by 2030, and I tell you this too, the people who are with Israel at all costs, Israel first, who are committing treason, and who am I talking about? All these people right here who have taken the money. In fact, here's a little clip of what I'm talking about here.
And again, the fusion technology is very decentralized, because the only person that can manipulate the smart contract is the owner, and the owner of those NFTs.
Yeah, all those people. Yeah, their days are numbered, and you're not going to be able to walk down the street when you learn that that country has been behind 9/11, JFK, assassinations, the attempted assassination of Trump, the Charlie Kirk, everything. Yeah, you're not going to have much of a future or career. In fact, here's Thomas Massey talking about it.
I would remind my Republican colleagues who are deciding how to vote, Donald Trump can protect you in red districts right now by giving you an endorsement, but in 2030, he's not going to be the president, and you will have voted to protect pedophiles if you don't vote to release these files, and the president can't protect you then. This vote, the record of this vote, will last longer than Donald Trump's.
Yeah, agreed. And not only that, you're going to have the Democrats who are the worst. But then again, how do you measure what's worse and who's worse? 90% of Congress and Senate have all taken the AIPAC money. They're all being directed. They all have the AIPAC babysitter, with the exception of a few. We're talking about the entire Washington apparatus and the political atmosphere there just going down. And I think that's what the Epstein files represent, a clear cut in the vision of what we have described as devolution. Devolution, that's exactly the term. Now, continuing on that, there's a new spark that has grown, a rift, a civil war. You have Trump, who is going to be probably going after Tucker Carlson by tomorrow morning. Well, the MAGA rift now grows as Trump feuds with MGT Green over there before the key 2026 midterm elections. This is huge. This is so distasteful. I don't even know where to start. Well, now, yes, Donald Trump has now addressed Congress earlier this year. You might have recalled with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, that's her real name. Was there. She was holding the American flag, if you recall, wearing a red baseball cap. Who can forget that symbolic moment? Very symbolic. And that said, Trump was right about everything. And just to give you a clear, concise articulation of it, here is what I'm talking about. Who remembers this? This is probably going to be all over Time magazine. I want to show you this here, just so you have an idea. That iconic photo right there. Yes, Trump was right about everything. You may recall that. I certainly do. Okay, so just to give you an idea. All right, so back to this here. Well, now we go back to politics. Well, now it's a little different now. After that, in recent weeks, Green has now escalated her criticism of Trump's focus on foreign policy, over what she said should be an agenda that concentrates on Americans, as well as his reluctance to release more documents involving Jeffrey Epstein. Now, on Friday, the Republican president said he would support a primary challenge against the Georgia Congresswoman. Oh, it goes way more than just that. In fact, this is what he tweeted out that same day, you may recall. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party. Now, just think about that. This is a woman who stuck her neck out over the course of the last, since 2016 for Donald Trump and this America First policy. This is a woman who, now it's coming out, was told to not run for the Senate seat in Georgia and stay at her place where she is. She was told that personally by Donald Trump before he got back in the office for a strategic reason, and she did. So she missed her chance. She missed the boat. Just kind of remember that too. Continuing now. So the criticism has gone up from Marjorie Greene. Now, all I see, this is a quote from Trump, Quote, all I see, wacky Marjorie do is complain, Trump wrote on his social media platform. And on Saturday, he tweeted out what I just shared with you, calling her new nickname Marjorie Taylor Brown because green grass turns brown when it begins to rot. Wow. Trump has successfully stamped out other challenges to his power over the years, but Green is not backing down. She even suggested that she, not Trump, may be the true champion of the America First agenda. She claims that I believe that the American people more than I believe in any leader or political party, and the American people deserve so much better than how they've been treated by both sides of the aisle. Yeah, she's saying all this. She's even going on places like, CNN.
About something you posted just yesterday on X. You questioned who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump to keep the Epstein files hidden. And you included a picture about donations from pro-Israel lobbying group AIPAC. What are you trying to say there?
Well, I think it's the question that many Americans are asking, especially when we saw information recently come out in these emails that the Oversight Committee that I serve on has released. And we saw Jeffrey Epstein with ties to Ehud Barak. We saw him making business deals with them, also business deals that involved the Israeli government and seems to have led into their intel agencies. And I think the right question is to ask is, was Jeffrey Epstein working for Israel? And I'm proud to say I don't take money from AIPAC. I don't take money from any special group of people. I'm just representing my district and the American people. And so that's what I was referring to.
Now, because of this, because of Trump's swinging at MTG, she's now saying and claims that serious threats and concerns have came her way. In fact, she put some proof on that. Let's have a look at the following, shall we? Well, President Trump just attacked me, she says. This is on X, and lied about me. I haven't called him at all. But I did send these text messages today. Apparently, this is what sent him over the edge. The Epstein files. And of course, he's coming after me hard to make an example to scare all the other Republicans before next week's vote to release the Epstein files. It's astonishing, really, how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, that he actually goes to this level. But really, most Americans wish he would fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women of America who are fed up with foreign wars and foreign causes, are going broke, trying to feed their families, and are losing hope of ever achieving the American dream. That's what I voted for. I have supported Donald Trump with too much of my precious time, too much of my own money, fought harder for him even when all other Republicans turned their back and denounced him. But I don't worship or serve Donald Trump. She worships God, Jesus, the Savior. So here it is. Here's the text messages. For me, I remain American first and American only. Check the flight log, she says. Epstein's plane. Bill Clinton is on there 26 times. Hillary, too. For many of us, releasing the Epstein files has always been for the women who were victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Democrat bad guys like this. So she goes on and on. And then she later claims in this text message, can everybody see this? Okay. Yeah. In every single interview, she says, I've defended President Trump. I have said over and over that women did nothing wrong. Democrats had 4 years to release the files, did nothing. So this was a personal text message that Marjorie had with the Donald. Now, it didn't stop there, though. It didn't stop there. No, it didn't. This is now, due to the attacks on her, this is what happened to her. Check this out. This is pretty wild. Now, apparently people ordered thousands of pizzas to send to her home of residency. Check this out. Here is, let's get this. Okay, there it is. Yeah, we're having some tech issues here. Well, here it is. Hoax pizza deliveries have now started to my house and my family members. Update, we've also received a pipe bomb threat on my construction company's office building. President Trump's unwarranted and vicious attacks against me were a dog whistle to dangerous radicals that could lead to serious attacks on me and my family. And let me just add, too, Yeah, Mossad works in mysterious ways too. They're very embedded in not just the White House, but in everyday life. Who remembers the ambush of the firemen in Idaho? Remembers the Kirk event? So yeah, she's taking on Donald Trump, you're taking on the security spyware really of Israel. Well, continuing now, she continued to say that. Unfortunately, I've been down this road before. As a matter of fact, I campaigned all over the country, defended Donald Trump, and received dozens of swatting calls on my house, my family members' homes, along with these hoax pizza deliveries. But even more severely, I have received some of the most death threats of any member of Congress, I believe that led to multiple men being convicted and serving time in prison. Now that Trump has called me a traitor, which is absolutely untrue and horrific. Mark Levine, no way, has been calling me a traitor. Yeah, but doesn't he look like a traitor without, explanation? And so have other prominent, likely paid social media activists. This puts blood in the water, creates a feeding frenzy, she says. Let me skip along. I am not a traitor. The toxic, dangerous rhetoric in politics must end. So there it is. Doxing, intimidating, targeting. There you have it. Real sad state of affairs. People. I don't even know what to say at this point. There's a lot of people who are diehard Trump supporters, and we understand that around here. And when it came time to, discussing these things that are happening, a lot of people, they threw hate at me just for talking about it or suggesting it's not what it seems. And, that was the case too. When you were criticized Obama, you were called a racist for a long time. You criticize Biden, you were called extreme right. Well, a lot of people are coming. This is hitting home. In fact, here's something I came across. Here is someone I saw on X. She says, "We will have your back just as we have Massey's. My heart breaks that Trump would go so harshly against you for the simple act of standing up for the victims of sexual trafficking. There is no nobler cause. Stay strong in faith." And that was a message to MTG. There you have it. It is sad. It is sad that people don't feel that the American dream is within reach or grasp. There was a poll taken recently whether for women, and get this now, they say 40% of women have said that they would prefer to live outside of the United States. Isn't that something? 40% of women. You also might have heard too, because clearly this could affect people's health. You might have heard Donald Trump's voice, raspy. People say they have now health concerns about him. Well, I would say so. The blueberry hands, just like Mitch McConnell. Somebody's getting poisoned. We don't even know what Donald Trump that is. But somebody who is poisoning the even more so the FBI. And with the reluctance of releasing these files, got grilled today, kind of in a final little tidbit here in the segment. That's Kash Patel, who got grilled earlier today by Thomas Massey on this entire subject. And I'd be hard-pressed not to, and remiss for not showing you this. Check this out. We'll catch a little bit of this and discuss after.
Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to the Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to the Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present?
Wow. We have to move on there. Yeah, so there you have it. That sums up Kash Patel for you and the cover-up. It's definitely a cover-up. That's it. It's a long episode tonight. I saw this comment. I feel like I have to comment on it. Regarding MGT, Spoonful says, I wouldn't mind some of those extra pizzas. You know, I was thinking the same damn thing. Oh, my God. Thank you for that. And might I add, the new Domino stuffed crust is incredible. If you haven't had it yet, it puts Pizza Hut to shame. Thank you, Spoonful, for that. I just had to share that. That's just too much. Anyways, we're now going to take the Concorde and get to some Real Deal International. It's one of them nights. It is a long show, and I'm good for it. Let's continue with Real Deal International. With olives, mushrooms, onions, pepperoni. I know what I'm getting later. Anyways, let's get to some Real Deal International, because there is a revolution happening in Mexico, as I saw it happening, or, I saw it coming down the Pikeway. I even saw the Trump administration 1.0 starting a conflict, or rising up to the occasion with the conflict with the cartels in Mexico, which Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has been long alleged, I should say, of being just a puppet for the cartel. Well, now the puppets and the chickens have come home to roost, or I should say the pollo. Well, let me tell you about this now, as Mexico is now revolting against suspected cartel puppet President Sheinbaum. President, get your shoebox and get your Sheinbaum together. As now Mexico City, this happened when the crowds said they were done and tired of it all. The line broke for a half second, and that was all the crowd needed in a huge protest. One riot officer cut off from his unit like a lone pawn on the wrong side of the board, got pulled into a sea of anti-cartel protesters. Oh, yes. In fact, let me tell you more about it as you have a look-see. This is incredible. Yeah, that's what's happening now. And to just add a bit more to it, you saw the promise or the broken promises of government crackdowns, operations, coordinations of taking care of the cartels who've just terrorized not just the tourists over there in places like Tulum, places like Cabo San Lucas, but to the average, ordinary people themselves. And a lot of those were young people, as you saw, who are not going to take it anymore. Now, the crowd swarmed with flying fists and fists that were flying of fury as the rage continued for days and days after, days to come and days prior. Now, the government is now sending troops to stop the outrage. And more troops equal more rage, as many people on the ground have stated. And Mexico didn't just have a protest, as it's now being described. They had a pressure valve blow right in front of the presidential gates, as that's where exactly the protests were taking place. And everyone who are saying that things are contained are certainly lying themselves. Now, this is a eyewitness account of what's now happening over there. And I don't have the exact video, which I will have tomorrow night. The same thing is being said to happen right now over there in Tel Aviv, over there in Israel, where many have described a Netanyahu is now terrified of the thousands of Israelis who have gathered in front of his presidential palace, which I thought was in Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. I guess I was wrong. It's in Tel Aviv, demanding an official investigation. Get this, an official investigation into the events leading up to and after October 7th, 2023. Where it's now just commonly said, yeah, he allowed it to happen at the very least. Yeah, financed, orchestrated, authored, you bet. Yeah, we've been through this before with 9/11. Yes, we have. Now, finally, here in the Real Deal International. Well, this is something interesting. There's now said to be a lack of adequate health care. Oh, no, I'm not talking about England. I'm talking about Canada. Yes, this is a new piece that has come out, a place called LifeSite News, which I love. Lack of adequate healthcare is now pushing Canadians toward assisted suicide, even more so than previous years. Well, the family of an elderly man is now speaking out about a terrible hospital conditions that led to their father to request euthanasia before he died of natural causes. The family of Mr. Cleo Greton, an 84-year-old retired diamond driller who died earlier this month in Chelmsford, Ontario, of natural causes after being approved for assisted suicide, brought to you by the Trudeau Foundation of Killers. Well, now is speaking publicly about their appalling experience in the Canadian healthcare system, and God forbid. One of the reasons I don't want to go to Canada, because if I do, I'm taking people out that want to take you out. Take out to the ball game. That's what I meant. Well, now, according to the CBC, the most lying POS name in news, well, the elderly man, quote, told his family he would rather die than go back to Health Science North over there in Sudbury. Now, at that recent stay where they found Mr. Cleo Greton, who was suffering from a heart disease and kidney failure, spending one night in the emergency room and then being transferred to a bed sitting in the hallway on the 7th floor. Now, they're saying there was no lights. All the bulbs in the hallway had been completely removed in this particular case. His daughter told the CBC, which I'm surprised they're even telling us any of this. They said that the only light we had was almost a desk lamp that had been bolted to the wall. Patients are passing by, nurses are going by, no privacy, no compassion, no dignity. The visit took place just in mid-October, which Cleo decided to apply for the medical aid in dying after this experience. And let me tell you something. This is across the board, at least that I'm aware of in the Commonwealth, particularly England. So now we know this happened in Canada. In England, and I heard this from an eyewitness account, just to get an emergency checkup, okay, emergency checkup where you're about to faint, all kinds of ailments, you got to wait in the ER room upwards of 16 hours, in some cases over 24 hours, just to be seen by what you might think is a doctor, but really, in all fairness, could be just a medical student from India. That's the UK. And I'm willing to bet it's not much different in Canada because there's a depopulation overall, a soft form of euthanasia to make you feel hopeless that will make you sign and say, yeah, okay, I want to be killed. I can't take this anymore. And they're even pulling out seats everywhere in these hospitals, nowhere to sit down to make it uncomfortable for you. Just like they're getting rid of benches all over the places, where elderly would sit down. They're saying, well, because we don't want the homeless there. Yeah. Well, how's that going to work when everyone's going to be homeless here by 2030? So we're on Agenda 2030 now. We beat them at Agenda 21. They didn't. Nobody took enough miracle jabs for this whole thing to work out the way they wanted. So now we're on Agenda 2030, or they have to even suggest more and more to kill yourself. And Canada is right involved because it was Canada, like New Zealand, like Australia, one of the lax countries where the best day of the week is tomorrow. Canada prided itself all these years of just being the alternative to the United States. They go, well, they got, gold and guns and hillbillies. We don't want that here in Canada. We got hockey. Now look at it. Australia, too. The arrogance and the ignorance of Australia. Well, we don't need our firearms. We don't need to be having school shootings like you Americans. Now look what that got them. So now this is happening across the board. And I'm willing to say it's even happening in New Zealand and Australia as well. And also very, very blue areas of the United States. Another form of population reduction that they need and want for their smart cities. That's why this whole damn thing is happening. And, spiritually and esoterically, it's the big blood sacrifice that is really garnishing up favor of the elite. So this is happening more and more. And this is really sad to hear. Just the euthanasia, how it's just applauded. And I've seen the commercials for it in Canada. It's disgusting. And there's a lot of people in that country that are running the show. They're not going to be able to get out of this politically. There's not going to be one vote that these people who are in power over there in Canada, they're going to abide by. So what does that tell you? Because you can vote your way out of so-called capitalism, but you certainly can't do it out of this globalist model of communism, because it's a corporate-backed form of communism. So much. I mean, look at what's happened with the Maha experience with RFK Jr. Everyone voted him in. He was supposed to make change, and he wants it. But it's always who the deputy director, the one person who's under them, the vice president in some cases, that are stopping these agendas that are for the people. They said they're for the people from happening. In fact, it's that same person, all the talk of the town under Trump. What's her name? Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, who decides who says what, who gives what interview to who. And nobody has ever seen independent media, alternative media, being allowed within a just 1 mile radius of the White House. Susie Wiles, a big promoter of big pharma, Pfizer, the whole thing. And, what about RFK? How could he allow this to happen? It's to the point where this is now coming out. Look at this. Speaking of which, Robert F. Kennedy, the Maha movement, has no better friend in Washington than Susie Wiles. That right there just makes my blood boil. Did he even write this? Let's continue. Who has supported every effort to end the chronic disease epidemic and restore the health freedom to every American. A small number of chaos agents are now targeting Susie out of ignorance or malice. Let's focus on the extraordinary achievements to date, on the monumental work that still needs to be done. I refuse to be distracted. Let's build our coalition stuff. No. How about you hear and heed to the call of the people, Robert? Just like when I told you, Robert, Bobby, in person, I said, you should be worried about the CCP, where all of the on-the-shelf medications, the drugs, the ibuprofen, 85%, if not 90%, all come from China. Let's talk about that. No, let's defend the woman who's poisoning and killing Americans. You see? So that's a slap in the face to people like me, you out there, even Mike Adams, who has fought to get the truth out about that woman. I tell you, that makes me so PO'd, which stands for pissed off. You know what I mean? So anyways, we're going to move on here because it's a long night. But anyways, we're going to get to some religious studies here. And I want to show you some clips before I release what I found out in 2017 about Donald Trump. I have to work my way up to it. So let's go to some real deal religionists.
On this day, now they crawl in underground tunnels that lead all the way to heaven. On this day, many
Real deal religious. Yes, I never get that word down for some reason. Anyways, okay, we're going to get to it. Well, if you missed over the weekend, it was a members-only ordeal. And how did this happen? How did this unwavering support happen of Israel? And many have said, well, it's the evangelical wing of the Christian movement. Well, Neil Bishop, who I didn't know till recently, is someone who actually was planning on being a pastor and grew up in that kind of environment. And he gives a great explanation of why we are witnessing, experiencing what we are, which is, this unwavering support of Israel that's being, it's given them the hand of God in their favor to commit all the war crimes and continue their greater Israel project. Well, here's a little clip of that you missed over the weekend, and more reason why you got to become a member. So check this out. We'll discuss a little bit after, and then I'll tell you what was told to me in 2017. It's just unbelievable. Here it is.
You will shake America with your power and your glory. We cancel every assignment of the enemy. This nation was birthed to be one nation under God, and we are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are taking the land.
These are the people like Greg Locke, who was at the inauguration, who surround Donald Trump. These are the pastors that have been galvanized since George Bush married the evangelical Christian wing with the GOP. Imagine that. So this is who has the inner circle to Donald Trump, not Roger Stone, not Mike Adams, not Stu Peters, not anybody. They're not even allowed to talk to the alternative media because of Susie Wiles. That's a whole nother ballgame. But let's try again. Neil, welcome back to the post-show analysis. I know you had to gather your composure and your words. It is gobstopping. Yes.
It is, man. Can you hear me okay now?
Not only can I hear you, but we can also see you, and you're ready to fight. Okay, let's go. Neil, what are we to make of what we just saw there? That was one of the most scathing, current, damning special reports we've seen in quite some time. But again, these are the people who are surrounding the very compromised American president of the United States.
And this nation was birthed to be one.
What are your thoughts on what we just witnessed here?
Well, the layers of the onion are getting peeled back, and Babylon runs really, really deep. And I think one of the big awakenings for people is going to be to see that the evil, the deep state, as they call it, the Illuminati, the dark players in this world have penetrated every facet of this world, including Christianity, and especially the mega churches. And thankfully, as we saw in this one with the quote unquote pastor Greg Locke, he's falling. Thankfully, people are starting to catch on to it. But he still has a really big online presence. And this guy's been manipulating the masses for many years now. And as we heard, this is not just going on with this pastor Greg Locke, or if you can call him that, it's going on everywhere in the church. You see it being exposed, and I'm excited watching it. It's nauseating. It's hard to watch, especially as a Christian. You go, these guys give Christianity a bad name. They push people away from the church. They, make people think that this is what the church is all about, and it's not. We're seeing the fall of Babylon even within the church. And, you've got these so-called mega pastors like Benny Hinn and Jesse Duplantis, and they're out bragging about, Jesse Duplantis brags about he's got the biggest house in Louisiana, 40,000 square feet. And he's done it on the dime of donors who give them money. And that's how these guys live and get rich. They just take money from people in the name of Jesus Christ. And as Stu very eloquently pointed out, it's disgusting. And I think that, Dean, I think their time's up. People are catching on.
You must be on the ball, or you must have caught the beginning of the show. I mean, this just happened hours ago. Another spiritual advisor in Trump's inner circle, mega church founder, Pastor Robert Morris, was sentenced, get this, to only just 6 months in jail for sexually abusing a 12-year-old.
Oh, geez.
Again, this just happened right before we started here, as you can see there. But he just got a little slap on the wrist, kind of like the criminal who was caught in Vegas abusing other children. Well, he had free passage to get back home. I mean, Neil, I want to ask you this because, we'll get back to Greg Locke. There seems to be a trend here that is surrounding the executive office. It's not surrounded with independent minds like yourself or alternative media figures we know of. No, it's surrounded by heretics like Greg Locke and creepy, weird rabbis from foreign nations. Are we an occupied country at this point? Because all indications seem to express just that.
Yeah, in my estimation, we've been an occupied country for many, many decades. This has been going on for a lot longer than people realize. And, people have been getting very wealthy and rich and running drug trafficking, child trafficking, money laundering operations through the church for a long time. And most of these big names have been close to the White House, close to the presidential offices. And it's up to the people to expose and put an end to this because they've manipulated numerous presidents. As long as we partake in this, as long as this becomes, as part of the church is part of the entertainment industry. It's part of the trafficking industry. It's part of the industry that is operated and owned in many ways by the deep state. And until we expose this and put an end to it, it's going to continue. So yeah, it's occupied. And I know the big talk recently has been that it's occupied by Israel and Israeli lobbyists, which is true. But that happens because of the Christian Zionists in the United States who allow that to happen, who promote it, who teach the false doctrines, who obviously don't know their Bibles. They just they've learned what they've learned in seminary, which most of the seminaries have been taken over by these Christian Zionists.
That's a great, thank you for reminding me. And yes, and to your point, yes, it's being taken over by the Christian Zionists. And let us not forget the Mormons, who we now figured out are huge Zionist supporters. But, okay, and they have a huge grip of the military. They're just getting away with under the radar. But to your point, you mentioned on the show just weeks ago that when pastors go to these trainings, they get taught under, I believe you said, like a sign, not a Seinfeld, but a Schofield. Explain what that is, because a lot of these pastors, they all sound the same, they all say the same thing, and they all love the Zionist wing.
Yeah, and if people do a deep dive on Schofield and on Darby, John Darby from the 1800s, they'll if they take a real deep dive, you'll begin to uncover that these guys were paid operatives to basically manipulate what the Bible says into the Israeli cause. And so that's really what we're looking at. And we probably should do a whole show on it and break it down and do an outline of where Schofield came from. It all trails back to Freemasonry as well. So that's another big deep dive. But basically, like, the Schofield Study Bible is the most popular study Bible in the world. People buy it, and there's these notes. There's more notes in it than there are scriptures. And people are reading the notes, and they're reading about supporting Israel. And if I bless Israel, I'll be blessed.
Well, there you have that. Yes, Deadman Tells No Tells. It's a little clip of what you saw or might have missed over the weekend from the incredible Neil Bishop, the RDM theologian. But it's very true. In fact, oddly enough, former mayor of New York, Mr. Mayor Boondoggle, Eric Adams, well, he just even had to go to the wall himself. I couldn't believe it when I saw it, and it makes no sense to me. But after what Neil said, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, I couldn't believe it. Here it is.
Here in Israel. And as I finish, I wanted to come back here to Israel and let you know that I serve you as the mayor, but I want to continue to have the title that's more important to me than anything. I'm your brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
No, he ain't my brother. And he ain't the black folks' brother either. That was, New York City former mayor Eric Adams, who makes a final trip to Israel before he steps down from office, apparently. Kissing the Western Wall, telling people of Israel, I served you as as a mayor and a male. A mayor who's happens to be a male. His visit included meetings with Israeli officials. Why? Including Prime Minister Netanyahu. Why? Tech and government leaders. Why? And discussions focused, they had discussions that were focused on combating anti-Semitism. Yes, of course. If that's not blackmail, it's what others have labeled as humiliation ritual. And that happened. Interesting. And now let's talk about Donald Trump and his relations, with others. And, many people said, well, Dean, how could you talk about that? Understand that it's more than that. Well, we're learning a lot as we go on, and we have to call balls and strikes sometimes. So all that old footage is coming out, but in relation to this now, in the leaked email, the brother of Jeffrey Epstein, Mark Epstein, asked if Vladimir Putin has the photos of Trump doing something to Bubba. I'm sorry that I even have to say this. Well, in 2017, I was approached by the Daily Mail. That's mail as in letters, the Daily Mail. And they approached me and asked me if I was willing to go on record to share things about Alex Jones, as I worked in Infowars in 2013. And I said, no, but I could tell you some things about the people that work there that should be taken down, like Millie Weaver, who I created a monster, and I've been apologizing ever since, but that's a whole nother story. But they then proceeded to tell me that they were trying to add to and build a greater story about Donald Trump, as he would. So yeah, the 2017, 2016. So it's like right before he took office or right before he won. It's very blurry, that kind of whole area. But around that time frame, just to give you an idea. And they said that they were following the leads that Trump had they said, a real affliction for British boys, British men. And then when you think about it, he's kind of like a what do they call it? An Anglo-Saxon. I forgot what the term is, but British culture was right up his alley. And they knew I was friends with back then Roger Stone, and I said I didn't know anything. I even told Roger this. Roger said to me, "It's a bunch of malarkey," and it felt like it, but now all these years later. So what they discovered was. So they sent one of their investigative reporters to Mar-a-Lago at the time, who was British, and they said that Trump hit on him excessively, propositioned him excessively, and they wanted to know if I knew anything about that. Have I been to Mar-a-Lago? I said no, I certainly haven't. But that story never got published, because even if there are publications out there that are anti-Trump or whatever, there's still some kind of levied power to stop some of these stories to come out. Because we're talking big money, and people get killing themselves. We all know the Gary Webb story. So it goes on, and I wasn't willing to, because I didn't know anything about this. I was really new to the scene in a way. I was very much a novice. Wasn't doing any hard news back then. But when you think about it, it's possible, because in these industries, and I've been involved in, like I shared that story, you see people who, when the lights are on, they're just fine and perfectly hunky-dory. But when the cameras are off and the lights are dimmed, you see the werewolves come out, and it's a frightening prospect that, Trump would ever be involved in such things. But now, as we see the pushback against the release of the files, is it crazy to think that that's a possibility? It could be. Well, I do know that Melania, who I've stated that I've yet to see Melania without glasses, thick sunglasses, and a hat in 2025. I do know she gets paid $4 million a year to be the first lady and, do all this stuff and be a loving wife and all that. So there's a lot of facade that's right before us. And I never thought it was my business to share that, but we're now in a situation where it's none of our business to be involved in any kind of military coups or wars of the foreign nature either. But we do have a duty to prevent any further war, because this country has been brutalized and battered ever since the end of World War II in getting involved in unnecessary wars that have been prodded by a foreign country like Israel and have been delegated by and participated in by the military industrial complex. So although I may be one scratch that is against furthering those actions, it's very meaningful when it's a million scratches all at once doing it. So if that adds to the puzzle, maybe it does, but I know the Daily Mail knows all about that story, and they're sitting on that. Will it be publicized? I don't know, but there's certainly a very detailed account of what happened at Mar-a-Lago and their investigation into that little lead there. So there's my story that Trump could be very much into the British persuasions of the male kind, and I feel like I'm going to throw up now. So there's my story. Okay. Yes, somebody just got here late. On that note, my final thought. Well, that was my final thought. But to add to that, I will be back tomorrow night. Hopefully in better form and condition, and hopefully I don't get a cold. I feel it coming on more now than before. But I want to thank Neil for that little piece we did. You'll see more of Neil coming up as we get over the holidays and our new show. We're going to bring back the men's full time. Also, big thank you to Mike Adams for some of the support behind the scenes. So for all of them and everyone else here at Real Deal Media, this is the #1 late night shadow band show, World at War. I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing your time. Until next time, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody.